All right, we are here. So, hey Moniz, thanks a lot for joining in. Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me? Am I clear?
Yeah, very well. I hope the audience is able to hear us as well. And let me just pull up the chat list. Okay. So we'll start in a bit.
Yep.
Okay. Hi everyone. I see we have a few attendees. So can you guys hear us and see us? Can you please message on the chat window? Okay, awesome.
Okay, cool.
All right. Okay, great. So here are quick, housekeeping items. We will run for 45 minutes, about 15 minutes at the end for the question and answers. And please keep pushing the questions, all the audiences. So thanks everyone for joining in. And I know you could all be somewhere else. It's a Friday evening. You choose to be here. So thanks a lot. And we will do the best justice to your time here today, right? While we wait for a few minutes for a few more people to join in, why don't you introduce yourself by putting your name and where are you from in the chat window, and that will help us understand who all are there in the room today. And while you do that, I will speak a bit about myself, Moniz, Detoin, so that you know who are the people. So Detoin is a company which is looking at making AI extremely reachable to business executives, specifically those in the sales functions, right? So Detoin is a platform which is AI enabled that brings the sales insights to the that brings insights for the sales professionals in a matter of few days, as less as like 1 week or so. So I am Vishal and I am handling product marketing for Detoin, and Moniz is the founder and CEO at Detoin. Moniz has a very rich background in data science. He has helped multiple large enterprises to actually adopt AI and machine learning, and he has been able to demonstrate a significant ROI on top of it. So I leave it to you, Moniz. I don't want to, I know you know your story best. We would like to hear that story best from you. So, Moniz, what earns you the right to speak about this topic today? Specifically, how to do more sales at SMBs using the insights from transactional data. Moniz.
So thank you everyone for joining us today. I have been into data science for more than 12 years now. And in these 12 years, I've helped enterprises to adopt machine learning, as you already said, into their business processes, particularly the sales function. So my job essentially has been to explore data in these enterprises to find insights that can help them to sell better and retain the existing customers as well. So during this journey, I have noted few interesting points. So let me start with point number one. The best data science is done by the business owner, not the data scientist. The reason being, the business owner knows their business well, they know their data well than anybody else. Point number two, there's a lot of low-hanging insights into your existing data, which are not exploited. And point number three, which is very important, if we bridge gap between the business owner and the data scientist, the implementations will always be successful, and they'll be very fast.
Hmm.
So this is
Yeah.
essentially that has been a essence of what we are trying to do at Data.
Hmm.
Leverage your existing data, leverage your expertise to build models that can provide you actionable insights.
Hmm. That's an interesting perspective. In fact, what you're saying is uh, the enterprise is small or large or medium size, doesn't matter. They all have the data that they need in order to use AI in order to drive more sales. Isn't that
Absolutely,
so? Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, interesting. So now that we are into this, let's start, and then let me just understand from you. In fact, before I ask you that question, for the benefit of the audience, let me share how did we come up with this title. How to do more sales for SMBs using the insights, right? So a couple of weeks back, Monis, you remember we were speaking about this whole thing about how sales professionals are leaving a lot of money on the table today just because they don't either know the insights from around the deals or from around different sales cycles that they are running, or they simply cannot process so much of data by themselves, right? Many a times they could have closed a deal at a little higher rate,
Absolutely.
but they ended up closing it at a lower rate because, of course, they didn't identify what is the intensity of a specific sales conversation at that moment. Or, sometimes the sales or the marketing people do not know which clients are more likely to go offline, right? And then which clients to spend more time engaging with them so that they can retain them. Now, all of that for me, was leaving money on the table, right? And so this small conversation between me and Monis, where Monis said, you know what, all of that could be handled through data. There could be leading indicators that sales and marketing people can get, which can help them retain most of their customers and also gain a surplus revenue from them. And then that's where we said, well, this conversation is worth sharing with our community, and therefore this topic. So essentially, Monis, coming back to my question to you. So why is this topic so important? I know, of course, but for the benefit of the audience, can you share a few insights around why is this topic so important to you? What do you see today when we see SMBs or online SMBs? What is it that you see that you feel can really be changed with instant access to AI kind of insights for the salespeople?
See, one point you already mentioned, we are leaving money on the table. You have data, you have been collecting data, you have historical data, and that data has a lot of clues in it.
Hmm.
So those clues can be easily exploited to give you insights based on which you can take actions, right? You mentioned many of those things. But another important uh, point which bothers me has been that there's a reluctance. People feel that
Hmm.
doing data science is essentially it's overwhelming, right?
Hmm.
There's certain kind of mental barrier uh, when we talk about data science.
Right.
But I'm going to my point again. The best data science will be done by the business owner, not by the data scientists.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this gap, this reluctance has to go. So we have data,
Right.
we have tools. The advent of the machine learning has advanced so much that we have tools. There are tools as simple as Excel sheets. Think of spreadsheets
Hmm.
long time back, right? So how they are exploited in the business as of now. Now the things have become
Yeah.
so easier, so accessible. People can start building their machine learning models for various insights uh, in matter of
Hmm.
few days. So let me give you
Yeah.
some broad level idea of how machine learning will like essentially work.
Hmm.
So the first thing is that you have a data, you have been collecting data uh, over a period of time, maybe 3 months,
Right.
6 months. Some people have data worth years, which is not used at
Correct.
all. And
Correct.
it doesn't need to be kind of exotic data. It has to be simple transactional data. You are
Right.
collecting your sales data, you are collecting your delivery data, you are collecting your complaint data. There is ton of data lying out there, which is historical, which has patterns in them, which can give you, insights into the future as well. So
Yeah. Right.
let me give you a small example. Say, for example, you have customers who have left your business,
Correct.
right? They will have a certain behavior before leaving your business. So if you are an online site, maybe the time they spent on your website has gone down. Maybe the order cycle has widened, right? They were ordering every
Right.
15 days. Now it has happened. They're ordering uh, uh, every month. Maybe they are going to the competitor, right? Now those guys have already left, but there are existing guys which might show similar kind of behavior. And what should we do? We
Hmm.
have to identify this behavior and proactively reach to these customers with maybe with offers, or which way the business wants to retain them.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
machine learning will essentially take this historical data for you, understand these patterns for the customers who have left, and apply
Hmm.
these patterns on your existing customers to tell you, okay, there's a probability this segment of customers might leave your business. Please do something about it.
Hmm. Hmm. Makes sense. Hmm. I understand. So, in essence, what you're saying is there is so much of a potential that is untapped in the current customer handling process or current sales process that can actually be tapped with the help of insights available through AI or machine learning. And the second excuse that we generally, and you spoke about it briefly, that the business owners are the real people who have the wherewithal to actually come out with meaningful insights or actionable insights
Yes.
for sales to monetize them, right? So that is what makes it important in terms of this topic that we're talking about
So
today.
the potential is so much that it bothers me that we are leaving this data, we're not touching this data. We might build few graphs here and there, but
Yeah.
there is a lot of customer behavior which
Correct.
can be tapped and give
Correct.
actionable insights.
Correct. Absolutely. I think that's the you know hitting nail on its head, right? So dashboards are fine. How can you possibly get insights that can move you from your chair and act in the field? Make that one call, get a recommendation on a specific offer, and all of this doesn't have to be a pet project of a data science, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
so that is another aspect, right? Data science is very costly. as, of,
exactly.
as of now, it's very costly. We are trying to make it extremely accessible and affordable for people.
Yeah,
So that's one more reluctance. Do I need to build a data science team to do that? My
yeah,
answer is no. You might want to
correct.
do innovations later, but right now you have a data. You can start and building your models, which can give you insights now.
Yeah, yeah. Get the basic indicators in place, and that's where the
Absolutely.
segment SMB and increasing sales with the AI kind of makes a lot of difference,
Yeah,
right?
this also creates certain kind of culture in your
Correct.
organization, right? You start with something that is working for you, that's giving you results, that's giving you ROI. You get encouraged to do more, right?
Right.
So it may be today, it may be sales, tomorrow it may be another aspect of your business.
Correct. Right. Right.
Have to get into it. So unless you don't jump into it, you're not going to. Forget about hiring data science team. That may not be your priority right now, but
Correct.
what you can do, your priority should be looking at your data which is lying there, which is
Yeah.
ready to give you insights that can
Right.
improve your sales numbers, that can help you to
Yeah.
retain your customers.
Right. So, Monish, before we proceed, I can see a question coming up. What kind of data is good data to start with in order for us to get insights from it for the sales to be driven? So, I think we plan to cover this, in a bit. So, I'll come back to that question in a bit. So, Monish, can you qualify what, according to you, is doing more sales in the context of this conversation is, so how exactly, sales can actually be increased if you knew what are the insights around it?
Yeah, I think you're more qualified to answer this question than me, but let me give it a try. I see myself as a data science. You're the sales guy.
Yeah.
I'll always respect that. So based on my experience, the best work has been done by the sales people around me. They have given me insights. How do you look at data and what do you get out of it? So I have only enabled them to kind of build this system.
Correct.
So yeah, so doing more sales, it has many meanings, right? So idea is to improve the revenue.
Correct.
So first thing in your pipeline would be the leads.
Right.
Right. So you have a limited set of resources to spend, right? So how do you prioritize leads? Why do you want to spend time with? Who are the guys who have higher conversion probability?
Correct.
You want to know that, right? So that you spend more resources on the customers who have high conversion, right? Another example, you have existing customers,
right?
They're doing business with you. Some might churn, some might leave your business. Do you want to retain them? That's again that will add to your sales number. So there are many nuances where you can essentially tap into the data and which will essentially help your sales numbers positively.
Makes sense. Right. So, yeah, I mean, the way I look at what you said is basically when somebody is not a customer, how they are behaving, what interactions are they having with you kind of qualifies them closest to become a buyer, or how close are they to become a buyer in terms of some sort of scoring of that particular lead. Helps sales people and marketing people to understand how to engage and how much to engage.
So let me give an example, right? So you would have already engaged with customers earlier, right? Which would have been which would be prospects, right? Then qualified leads. So all these engagements, all these interaction will leave a trail of clues in their systems, right?
Right.
And when a new guy comes in and you want to understand, okay, where is this guy going to go, right? How do I essentially exploit this historical data, see the patterns I have learned from this data, apply them to new guy and see, should I spend enough time with him? What kind of offers should I send him? Are there any discounts I can give him?
Yeah.
And many other aspects around it.
Yeah, makes sense. So essentially at every stage in the sales cycle, the insights from the data powered through some sort of an AI or machine learning system can help the sales executives to move the needle in a more productive sense. And you, I think, spoke about it, how even after somebody becomes a customer, how to understand if they're going to renew their contract, their subscription, or they're going to buy again from you. When are they more likely to buy? I think these are some of the ways we can certainly do a lot more business being an online SMB, right?
Absolutely.
So amazing. I think that brings us to the question that we got here today. What data is really necessary and minimum and, good enough to really start, monetizing it in the sales process? So what are your views on that? What data is really necessary? I mean, if I'm a online SMB or I'm just an SMB, not even online, but I'm a tech-centric SMB. So I tend to maintain the data for my sales, my after sales, my support. What is the data that I should say that, well, I'm really placed good to start my journey in AI and machine learning so that I can increase my.
One good news is that any new modern business uses a lot of tech, right?
Yeah.
So we have lots of systems that capture our data, right? Be it CRM systems, be it analytics system, right? Google Analytics is there, right? There is Segment.io. Then you have lots of different CRM systems. You have transactional systems within your. So the good news is that any new modern business has all the technology that collects data further. So I would give you simple examples of your transactional data. So one simple example would be your sales data already, right? So another example would be your CRM data.
Right.
your website analytics. So that can
Correct.
come from Google Analytics and different other products as well. So all
Hmm.
this data is transactional for us because it's
Correct.
stored well. And good news that all this data has access. All these modern systems provide you APIs,
Hmm.
right? You can access this data very easily. You don't need to kind of worry about. I remember in enterprises still there are legacy systems where extracting data out of those systems is really very difficult. But that's not the case now. Any modern business has data right there, right? If you are into business for
Correct.
5 days, you have started collecting data for yourself. So be it your sales data,
Correct.
your
Hmm.
delivery data, be it your website behavior data, and many other examples of this data, complaint data for that matter, uh,
Yeah.
would be used to kind of power these machine learning models to give you these insights that help you to improve your
Makes
sales.
sense. Makes sense. Even would you say that if some businesses, because many SMBs today are maintaining the data in Excel sheets,
Yes,
right? Their whole support data or their customer sales data is maintained as Excel sheets.
yeah.
Do you think even they can use the power of AI to drive sales?
Absolutely. That's even more simpler, right? So they already have
Yeah,
prepared data in their hand. Excel sheet is much closer than
correct.
having a data in some kind of transactional system. So
Yeah,
they are more they can start using it even faster than anybody else. That also
right.
means since they
So
are
essentially, what we
yeah, that also means since they are using,
sorry.
yeah. So one point, since they have already data in their Excel sheets, that means they are much more well versed with their data
Right,
than any other
right.
systems.
Correct. You know what I have seen typically when I interact with a lot of SMBs and the IT people in these SMBs or the owners or founders as well is they tend to feel that they don't have enough data or they are not there yet in terms of starting to use AI or ML. Well, we just have one product, we just have one market, we just have one salesperson. So would you qualify all these different sizes as as a beginning of journey for them to really look at data and do some productive sales?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is one of the major misconceptions that you need a lot of data to do machine learning. And essentially, deep learning has led to that misconception. But
Okay.
there's a lot of scope for your existing data. I would say if you have 3 months of data, we can start analyzing the churn of your customer.
Correct.
If you have
Correct.
6 months of data, you can start doing lead scoring for yourself.
Hmm.
If you have 3 months of data, purchase data, you can start cross selling, upselling.
Correct. Right.
So and another important point is that you need to get started. These models will evolve. You need to retrain them over a period of time, right? Right.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this happens periodically. So
Right.
my point would be that you get started, you'll start building the data, your models that start getting better as well. So machine learning, building these models is not a one-time thing. They need to learn continuously. So more data, it will give more insights to
Yeah.
you have. But you can start now, and when you have lot of data, you will have lots of insights as well.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So it's really about version one is better than version none, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's right.
Right. Okay, so that's interesting. So now let's get into a how bit of things. We understand this is an important topic. We understand that these limitations that more data, less data, more time, less time, data science team or not is really not a limitation at all. And we understand that whatever transactional data you should have, just begin with it. Now, if we were to get into one specific use case, that can help the sales really to drive, say, additional customer retention or additional customer acquisition. What should that use case be? So for example, when you want to start working with an SMB, uh, you know, of course, if the SMB owner has some preference, that's a different story. But if you were to look at their sales problem, what is one of the use cases that you would pick up and you will show the value like in a matter of couple of weeks?
Yeah. So I think one of the low hanging problem that we can solve is the customer retention.
Okay.
It is a customers come and customers go.
Right.
The whole idea is to kind of can we lower the number of the churn? So how many customers are leaving your business? It applies to any online businesses, right? These are more frequent, right? Transactions are more frequent. There's a lot of competition. There's a movement from one e-commerce site to another e-commerce site. So it becomes very essential if you focus on customer retention. I think a lot of work has been done on marketing and inbounds and other things. Customer retention is one thing where you can start from the day one.
Right.
You have enough customer data. You can start building models which will help you to retain your customers. So in this part, I think let's discuss the churn itself.
Okay.
Use case. So what I was thinking that we will talk about machine learning and then pick up few more use cases, but
please do that if you think it is necessary to put it in the context.
So what I'm thinking is that rather than going to machine learning part, we may have subsequent webinars where we can cover machine learning and how to use it, how to fit it within your system, within your business. So we can have it's much detailed. So what I want to since the topic of this webinar is has transactional data in it, I would focus on how do you build data for a churn use case.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So the idea is to we have a customer. He goes through a journey, and let's try to understand how essentially we need to think to build this data set for machine learning, which will give us insights whether customer has churned or not. So let me pick a few examples. So what do you think? Let's say you have. Let's assume you have a business. You are selling apparels and shoes.
Right.
So what information do you have about your customer?
So
Go ahead. Yeah. So one would be the profile information.
Yeah. Right.
So the age, sex, location, right? So that's one piece. So that's the profile data. Usually a lot of analysis happens on profile data, the segmentations, all things. But then comes our transactional data. What are the values that these customers leave behind whenever they interact with our application? Be it a website, they may be viewing products, they may be purchasing products and things like that. So I already have built a small tutorial which we will share after this webinar. So let me share my screen and explain how we have essentially modeled.
Right.
Let me know. Let's see. Okay. So the idea of this document is to enable you to think, how do you see a customer when it comes to the churn use case?
Got it.
So we have basically how we have seen it. This is the experience of working with many customers, enterprises, and the online SMBs and similar businesses. So first thing you will see is you have a profile data. Can we learn something with profile data, right? How important is the age? How important is the sex? Second thing, what we can get from this transactional data are the symptoms.
Right.
So what is essentially a symptom? Customer leaving you. He has not visited your website for a long time. Correct? So that can be one symptom, right? So I'll take you through those symptoms. The third thing would be the cause. What are
Correct.
the cause that he left the business? Maybe he had a lot of complaints that were not addresses. The number of complaints were huge.
Hmm.
Right? So now to understand whether a customer will leave my business or not, we need to address various aspects of the customer's journey. So let me take you quickly through this list. So you have a profile data where you have age of customer, you have
Yeah.
sex of customer, the city, maybe region, maybe country as well. Then
Yeah.
uh, when the customer joined, so this tells us how old is the relationship with the customer. Is he new?
Got it.
Do we
Hmm.
need to work more on the new customer rather than the older one, right? uh,
Right.
then in terms of symptoms, right, days since he has purchased last, so this gives you
Right.
clear clue that if it has been, let's say, 90 days he has not purchased anything, that clearly
Yeah.
means he has left your business.
Correct. Hmm.
This is very important factor. We have to capture total number of
Right.
purchase. How much business has he done with us, right?
Right.
So uh, uh, has he given us any rating on our products? Is there a lowest rating? So what is that, right? What was the lowest?
Correct.
So there would be symptoms which will tell you, okay, there is something wrong with this customer, right? He's
Correct.
complaining, he's doing many things, right?
Correct.
Then other dimension of this data, which is essentially from the transactional data, we are not using any special data here,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So how you as a business owner can model it? You can look at your transactional data and see what is the profile data, what is the symptom data,
Yes.
and what is the cause data. So
That sorry to cut you, but I think that connects with what you said in the beginning. A lot is actually dependent on a business owner's own insights of the business, and that's where the symptoms come in, isn't it?
absolutely. I
Yeah.
would say, as I'm saying again, the best data science would be done by a business owner. So if you are in
Hmm.
a apparel business, your sales cycle may be 1 month. But if you are in,
Correct.
let's say, something, right, diaper business, right, the sales cycle would be different. So
Correct.
both of these businesses would look at their customers from different point of views.
Correct.
You
Right.
cannot,
Hmm.
and those semantics of data is what business owner understands. It's not the data science. You have to translate all those semantics to data scientists.
Got it.
Our
Hmm.
whole idea premise of data is to kind of bridge this gap, right?
Correct.
Why don't you do it yourself, or why don't
Yeah.
you get one of your engineers to do it for you, right?
Correct. Hmm.
Rather
Hmm.
than so this is the essence why I'm talking about symptoms, causes. For example, in lead scoring, right? So
Hmm.
uh, how would you score whether customer is good, whether this customer has a high conversion probability?
Potential. Hmm. Hmm.
So one simple example
Yeah.
would be right. Is he responding to my emails, right? So
Yeah.
is he how frequently is he responding? I wrote an email. Is he responding it promptly, or is he taking a lot of time, right?
Correct. Hmm.
Correct. What region does he belong to, right? uh,
Right.
that will give us his purchasing capacity and many other things.
Correct. Hmm.
So there would be drivers in that data as well, which again comes from the transactional data, doesn't come from anywhere else.
Understand.
So
Understand.
let me get back to the
Yes.
churn use case. So now you have symptom data and then you have cause data, right? So
Yeah.
let me so total engagements, right? Maybe you have not engaged with the customer much, right? In the
Correct.
90 days, he has not bought anything. Maybe no email, no offer, nothing has gone. So what were the total engagements, right? So you again kind of understand that if the engagements are going down for this particular customer, that means he might not do business. There's no retention there, right?
Right.
So how many complaints have you received for this customer? Again, this is a cause,
Correct.
right? If
Correct.
number of complaints are increasing, that may be a cause.
Hmm.
How many times? So what was your average delivery time?
Yeah.
Is that increasing? Is that decreasing? Right. So
Right.
different businesses will have different these small clues, which
Correct.
essentially they need to prepare, feed into machine learning
Correct.
data. That's what data as a tool will give you. You don't need to worry about the complexity of how it will run. You feed it in and it will tell you, okay, this customer who's your existing customer is showing similar kind of behavior the customer who have left your business.
Hmm. I understand. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, we can share this link to them. It's a public link. They can go to help.data.com where they can
Yeah. If
prepare
you
it.
can paste it in the, yeah, if you can paste it in the chat, that would be wonderful.
I
Yeah.
will do that. I will do that.
Yeah. So it's amazing. Actually, it is kind of, this table kind of is giving an entire different perspective to look at your own data and what you can achieve through it. So these are different nuances of a business cycle or a sales cycle that are looked upon to see if an ongoing conversation is more likely to convert, not convert,
Absolutely.
what's going to happen, then and then take actions accordingly so that your chances of doing business increase.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
So
that's,
yeah,
yeah.
so what I have been thinking about, what we'll do next is that we will take each of these use cases, flesh them out, right?
Yeah.
Take some business context with it, right? Try to
Yeah.
explain how do you essentially look at your data.
Correct.
And that is the 90% problem solved.
Makes
Uh,
sense. Yes.
10% of machine learning will happen automatically. So my
Right.
goal is to kind of, so this is the biggest kind of hindrance on how do you get started.
Right.
How
Right.
do you get started? So getting started is getting started with the data. This and
Correct.
you have the data.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I think the subsequent webinars will pick up each of these use cases and
Makes sense.
try
Yes.
to kind of help people to kind of understand how do they kind of look at their data to prepare
Hmm.
it for intelligence.
Right. Right. So just for the benefit of the audience, there is customer churn that we spoke about today. We plan to speak about predicting demand or forecasting demand, personalized pricing, and there are a few others specifically in the area of sales. How to look at your data so that you can increase your sales by drawing insights from your own data. So that's what we'll pick it up as the next segment. So meanwhile, Moniz, there are a couple of questions. So are all these fields necessary is one question from the list that you just showed. Are all these data fields necessary, or what is it? Is it like more like indicative list? How do
It,
you go about it? Yeah.
it's more of a if it's more of a guideline.
Got it.
As I told you, right? So the response time of your website, if you have a software as a service, response of time of your website is a important factor, right?
Yeah.
That means your service is not doing well, right? As
Hmm.
opposed to if it's an e-commerce site, it doesn't matter much. So
Hmm.
in case who is selling software as a service,
Hmm.
response time becomes very important factor for the churn. If
Yeah.
response time is increasing, they may not use your product, right? But
Okay.
for e-commerce people, the delivery times becomes important, right? When
Right.
it was delivered, right?
Right.
This list is just a guideline how to look at your data, how to prepare your data.
Hmm.
You
Okay.
may
Got
use
it.
some of these fields, you may not use some of these fields, or you may use some new fields which you feel
Right.
important. So that's what we want. That's the essential message, right? Identifying your fields that you can put in the data and then give them to algorithms.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So another question is, do we have to train the machine learning models manually? I think this is a little advanced somebody who knows about machine learning. So okay, I'll just add my question on top of it, because a lot of overwhelm around machine learning is preparing the data, training the models, getting the accuracy up, and then finally getting the results. So how do you see these questions when you say that there is an instant monetizable insight available from your data?
Yes. So as I already told, the whole idea of data is to bridge gap, right?
Yeah.
The complexity of machine learning is taken care of. So in the background, the selection of models and all those things, all that complex fancy stuff happens automatically.
Right.
Right. The only concern that a business owner should have: am I providing it the right data? Does that data make sense to them? If that data makes sense to them, the data will make sense for a machine learning. It's just garbage in, garbage out principle.
Correct.
So are they providing right indicators for a certain task? If they are doing lead scoring, are they providing right indicators? If they are doing churn analysis, are they providing right indicators?
Yeah.
And many other things. So what our message is that you only worry about your data. The rest of it would be taken care of.
Yeah, and as business executives, I mean, from my own experience, what I see is if I am getting some insight, I would be very quick to jump on it and try it out and come back and say, well, this didn't work. Well, this worked, right? So I think the validation is really quick out there on the field straight away. On a call or on an email, you see whether the prospect who was categorized as very hot converted or did not convert, right? And finally, that also becomes an input to the algorithm. Right.
Absolutely. So that learning can go back. So another thing in machine learning is you have to do experimentation.
Correct.
So you provided these set of fields as features. It may not behave well. Then you say, okay, that information might be important. Let me feed it that information. Our essence is that, can we do these experiments faster? Can this happen in a matter of 1 hour? Right?
Absolutely.
You have a new model. You try it out.
Correct.
The best validation is when you take it out on the road. As they say, take the car on the road, right? So that is the best validation. Rather than you can have evaluation and all that fancy data science stuff, but until unless it doesn't go in the real world, and you come back with some feedback and do it again, the idea is to kind of reduce this experimentation time. You don't have to spend 2 weeks to understand what has happened.
Yeah, and as they say, I mean, in sales, actually every week or every month or every quarter matters, and what matters is if you keep doing the same thing, you will keep getting the same results.
Absolutely.
And therefore, experimenting with your own data kind of makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
So interesting. I think there's one last question, and then we're also running out of time in a minute or so. So do we need to have a data science team to get a list of churning customers? That's the question.
I think we tried to answer this question. So no, we don't need data science team to do that. You have data, you have your expertise, and you can use data as a tool to get started on that.
Yeah, just to further qualify, I think what Monis you mean is you may not need the data science team to start off on some of the immediately useful insights. You can certainly use a data science team at a level 2 journey, just so that you can innovate on top of the data further, create your own models and stuff like that.
So right? So when I'm talking about the low-hanging machine learning that you can do, right? Correct. You may start innovating later. So that will only happen when you jump into it, understand yourself what's going on,
and you've seen the value.
And you have seen the value essentially, right? Then sky's the limit, right? There's a lot of fancy stuff out there you can do and invest in, but our job is to get you started. Our job is to kind of exploit your existing whatever you have right now, which is hanging, and in the process educate you to kind of take you to the next level.
Awesome. So it's about starting with the data science project right away so that you can bring in some additional dollars. And I see this is just the tip of the iceberg, and the idea seems like sales and marketing executives can really have this insights handy first, and then grow on top of the possibilities. So I believe we are done with the time, and I think we have touched upon most of the pointers. So we will definitely come back with every separate use case as another bite on this channel. And Monish, thanks a lot, and we'll keep doing this. Thank you. Thanks a lot to all the audiences as well.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.